Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. All right. So let us turn to our chart on page number
311.
311. Let me share the screen. All right. So do we have any questions before we move on to the sections that we have to cover today, which is absence, disappearance, and non-disappearance? I think we have already covered, finished the section on presence, haven't we? Yes? So, right. So we are starting on absence. Do we have any questions before we start on the next section? All right. Absence. Absence. Absence deals with, here we see that it is the same as 4, which is anantarapache, proximity cause, right? In essence, what absence deals with is, let us go to anantarapache, absence, which is on page, it's right at the end.
Three or six, is it?
306, Bhante.
306, Bhante.
Thank you. 306. Here we are. Absence. Absence and disappearance. These two conditions are another pair which are identical in substance but differ merely in letter. Absence condition is a condition where a mental state ceasing gives the opportunity to another mental state to arise immediately next to itself. Disappearance condition is a condition where a mental state by its own disappearance gives the opportunity to the next mental state to arise. The conditioning and conditioned state in these two relations are identical with those of proximity and continuity condition. Right? In proximity condition, what did we discuss? We discussed the conditioning state, and the conditioned state becomes, in proximity condition, the 89 chittas, the 52 chetasikas, except the arahata, death consciousness, becomes the conditioning state, isn't it, everyone? Right? In proximity condition. And the conditioned state, which arises conditioned by the conditioning state, is the 89 chittas and the 52 chetasikas. What are we talking about here? We are talking about proximity and continuity, which is the fact that this chain, when one consciousness arises, conditioned by this consciousness, in proximity condition, conditioned by this consciousness arises the next consciousness, right? Arises the next consciousness. It is explained to say, when a consciousness ceases, it doesn't cease entirely, but a certain spirit or essence of this consciousness that has just ceased conditions the next arising consciousness. Do you understand? Is that clear? in that same topic or within that same topic. Now, in proximity condition, let us go to the chart. I think I had the chart. Oh no. In proximity condition, we dealt with proximity, meaning what arises, or in within which proximity, or as a proximate cause, what arises, right? And then the continuity of that, again leading to the same 89 chittas, 52 chaisikars, except the arhanta death consciousness, and the conditioned state becomes the 89 chittas and 52 chaitasikas, right? What are we talking about in absence and disappearance? In absence and disappearance, what we then talk about is the fact of, in absence condition, owing to the fact that this chitta, within this moment, right, within this moment, according to absence condition, because it ceases, it gives allowance, opportunity for another consciousness, for its preceding consciousness and mental factors to arise. Is that clear? That is absence condition. Conditioned by the fact that the consciousness ceases to exist, lays foundation for this next consciousness to arise. Is that clear? That is absence condition. Disappearance condition is a condition where a mental state, by its own disappearance, gives the opportunity to the next mental state to arise. Right? In disappearance, it's talking about the fact of disappearing, not absence. Do you understand? In the first absence condition, right, it's talking about the mental state in ceasing. It's absent now. That mental state which is absent. In that fact, now another consciousness together with the respective mental states can arise. By the fact of disappearing condition, the difference here remains to be by the fact of conditioned by its disappearing nature. Do you understand the difference? Conditioned by its disappearing nature gives the opportunity for the mental state to arise. It is two perspectives. The fact that it is no more gives leeway for other mental factors to arise according to that proximate cause, right? Proximate pachaya, right? Anantara pachaya. But here we take now absence condition. In disappearance condition, we take the fact of the 52 chaitasikas, 89 chittas, 52 chaitasikas, except the arahanta death consciousness, in its process of disappearing, produces a foundation for other consciousnesses to arise. Is that clear? Any questions? Two perspectives, very close. The line is very, very close to one another. Any questions?
Bhante, did I hear you saying that in the second one, now in the first one, there's an absence condition where the mental state, it ceases completely, and then it gives an opportunity for by the proximate cause where it gets absent for another mental state of chitta and chaitasika to arise. Now, in immediately after. But in the disappearance conditions, you're saying it's also, here disappearance is not absence, but something has come and it has now disappeared. As a where the mental state by its own disappearance, gives the opportunity for the next mental state to arise. Did I hear you saying, I may have heard it wrong, that by that that it hasn't completely disappeared or something, that it has not completely ceased. Did I hear that right?
Yes, you heard that right. Now when what or how that works there is, thank you, Dil, for bringing it up. I understand where the question would arise in my statement there, right?
Right.
I will clear
Right.
it.
Thank you,
But
Bhante.
it's a very pertinent question. And so obviously, it is obvious. I mean, it's not this would arise because we are talking about absence. Now it's absent, but it's not so absent. So how does that work, right? Makes sense that that question arose. This is how it works. When a conscious energy packed or supported by the mental factors arise, that energy which goes through a process of impingement, that energy which goes through a process within the mind, impinges and has a certain effect upon the mind, right? That certain effect of the mind, although the consciousness ceases, isn't it a fact or a characteristic of the mind to remember,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now,
Yes.
then, Bill, this is how it makes sense. The consciousness has disappeared. However, its essence or its impact has remained in the stream of energy of the mind. That is how it remains. The consciousness disappears,
Mm-hmm.
right? However, when we must also understand when a consciousness, if this is a consciousness, right, and upada titi banga, before it entirely ceases, the other consciousness has to, because there is no pause between these two consciousnesses. So now do you understand where the stream of energy lies on a level or with regards to the flow of conscious energy? Do you understand? Right? So whilst this mind, right, whether it be an impingement process, whether it be a bhavanga process, there are no breaks in between consciousnesses. The fact that there are no breaks within consciousnesses, that stream that continues to flow within samsara as long as we exist up until we attain arhatship, where it that flow continuously ceases entirely upon death. This fact of connectedness between the consciousnesses allows that stream of energy to flow. Do you understand? Right? That is how this essence or this impact impacts the next consciousness which is to arise.
So is that where the memory stays, even though
Yes.
this record?
Memory, the functions of consciousness remains within that line, that stream, right? And not to, I hope it is clear that this stream, that this energy is also impermanent in nature, right? But because this energy arises, because we are using the word stream, it might seem like it is a continuous process. But remember, this process is just energies, but these energies arise, pass away, and as before this entirely pass away, this arises. And before this entirely pass away, this arises, the next one arises. And this happens continuously, right? Where there are no breaks. There are no breaks. So this energy arise or pass away, happening in such a manner where there's a continuous flow of that energy. The only anomaly that we know is when we enter the plane that we love to talk about, Asanna Satta. That's the only place that this process stops and then continues owing to the power of karmic perseverance.
Yeah.
Is that clear? Yes, Mark.
Bhante, in one of the books I read, they give this example. Absence is like when a condition is like when a king dies, and when the king dies, the heir to the throne takes over and he becomes the king. And disappearance is the king doesn't die, but he gives up his kingdom and he goes to the forest to meditate. That's the example they have given.
Okay. Where was that example?
In Nina Van Gokum.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you explain in terms of Utpadatiti Banga? Towards the end of Banga, not completely end, just few fraction of a second before Banga, disappearance force acts, right? And the absent force is acting just at the end of the Banga stage. So the two different source of energy. One is just before end of Banga, and other one is just a fraction of a second before Banga. Because two source is actually explained probably in that respect. Do you understand me? One is disappearance is actually you have not completed the Banga stage, Upadatiti Banga stage. You are still at the end of the Banga stage, disappearance. But absence condition, you have just passed the Banga stage. That means the influence, less influence from your previous chitta.
Yes. I
So
think.
there two source of energy. So we can see actually two source of energy. One is because of the previous consciousness, there's a leftover or sort of influential energy govern help the other chitta to arise. And then the absence is actually once it's ceased to exist, and that energy is different from the toward the end of the Banga. Is it?
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense, surely. Now, if we look at it now, where else do we have four? We have proximity cause in decisive condition. We have continuity. We have proximity. We have absence and disappearance. Right? That is all we have with regards to proximity. Right? Now, if we now in essence of proximity, we speak about anantara is a fact of as or proximate to these consciousnesses and mental factors, 89 chittas, 52 chetasikas, except the arahanta death consciousness, arises the 89 chittas and 52 chetasikas, or can arise the 89 chittas and the 52 chetasikas. The absence and disappearance, whilst what Damsiri just mentioned with regards to, we can say, the collapse of the titi moment before the end of the banga moment, and then the banga moment before the collapse, with the collapse of the titi moment before the ending of the banga moment, Damsiri classified as number 23, disappearance pachya, right? And absence pachya to sort of denote the process of the absence or the collapsing of the banga moment.
Yeah.
With Damsiri.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Which makes sense. But what I am thinking of Damsiri is this, right? Now, So we have, so just for everyone, we have number 4, proximity condition here, right? And then continuity condition is the same as 4 as well here. Then decisive pacha, where is decisive? Here, decisive pacha, we have proximity condition here, right? And then we have absence and disappearance, right? Number 21. Number 21. Sorry, 22 and 23.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at it in this manner, Dhamsari, and everyone else, of course, the production, when does the conditioned state come to arise? It is because of that, Dhamsiri, that I did not sort of look at it in that manner, because let us say now, if we are to classify, it makes sense, right? The collapse of the Titi moment before the collapse of the Banga moment is a disappearance pacha. But the thing is, if we break it up in that manner, are we suggesting that the results of the disappearance moment, right? The results of the disappearance moment and the results of the absent moment, right? So then the disappearance moment results must come first, no? Because the disappearing happens first, and then the absence happens second, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the proximity condition also, right? The fact that as this passes, the next consciousness is going to be one of those consciousness, 52 and 89.
Yeah.
So then, can we take that example, or can we take that approach? Is the question. Because when does the conditioned state arise? You get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that is why I use the word two different perspectives.
Yeah.
Right? Because two different perspectives of looking at it, because, or else we have to, if we are talking about two different specific energies
Yeah.
separately, then those energies should be able to produce separately as well, which it doesn't.
No, not necessarily. Energies can produce the same thing. The two different energies
Okay.
can help to produce the same thing.
Two different energies can help produce
to produce the same thing.
thing.
Yeah.
The
Same Dhamma.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of a more of a scientific approach, because so it's not so sort of a one-to-one relationship we are talking about. That means this should give rise to this, or this should give rise to this. Now we are talking about these energies can contribute to appearance of other.
But the thing, it's actually one energy.
Yeah, one energy, but in different frequencies.
One energy, different frequency.
Yeah, because that's why you separate disappearance and absence. Otherwise, you could have one single pacha.
Disappearance and absence.
Yeah.
If we are to go ahead with the thought of the different frequencies, now the frequencies, what difference, because what we are speaking about in this specific condition, absence and disappearance correlating to proximity condition, right? Whatever consciousness that we are speaking of at that moment, at that respective moment, is going to be one. So proximity condition, absence condition, disappearance condition is all going to be one consciousness.
Yeah.
Or rather, let me reword, the same consciousness.
Yeah.
The same consciousness, not one consciousness, the same consciousness. The energy that it produces, right? The energy that it produces Uppada Titi Banga, the law, the nature, the frequency of it is universal between all 89 chittas, isn't it?
mm, mm.
Upadhatiti Banga, there is no specific classification apart from the fact of the power of the energy according to the three chittakshanas relating to then the next moment according to chitta niyama. What
Yeah.
are you thinking of the answer?
No, because actually, then we come to that interesting concept, kusalo dhammo, kusalasa dhammasa, akusalo dhammo, akulasa dhammasa. So actually, the forces behind these formations are different. Different in the sense, for akusala, it's different. For abhyakata, it's different. For kusala, it's different. So when it comes to more sort of detailed analysis, then you can see why it's creating. So we have to look at it actually into more one level in detail below. We are actually considering this very broad brush approach. If you go and divide this into different conditions, or I think there's another way of considering that, means based on the skandhas, yeah, because the four skandhas, so the forces that one skandha can generate or can influence other three skandhas are different from two skandhas influencing the two skandhas. Same way, it's
Well,
slightly.
okay, why are we bringing that in here?
The reason is because the energy behind absence and disappearance will have a different level of energy, even though outcome is the same.
Can we come back to this? Can we come back to this after presence and non-disappearance? Because we're going to deal with the same thing,
Yeah.
right? Because I still believe, right now, you with the Patthana part that you
Yeah.
kusalo dhammo akusalo dhammo,
Yeah.
the kusalo dhammo akusalo dhammo variation depends on the nature of the chitta chetasika complex,
Yeah.
right? The intensity of it, of the result, depends on the intensity of the object
Object. Yeah.
and the nature of the mind, yonso and
Yeah.
ayonso mansakara, the power of the mind, whether you've just got up or whether it's
Yeah.
middle of the day, whether it's a bright day, a good day for you, whether your mind is powerful, whether your mind is weak, whether you're about to die, whether you're just born, all of these different variations
Yeah.
support. But when we take the three chittakkanas, upada titi banga, this time frame of a chitta is used to denote that a chitta arises, processes, and passes away. But within the Abhidhamma, whilst I understand that the frequency varies between upada titi banga, of course it must, right? It is a drawing or a lowering of power,
Yeah.
right, which is spoken about. Direct resultants owing to upad titi banga is not spoken about within the Patthana when it comes to the conditioning and conditioned states,
Oh.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe in the future, but at this, maybe in the future, maybe Danno Dani, I don't know.
Well, we may have to wait for the next Buddha.
Right. So let's see. Now, can we move on to, right?
Yeah.
Can we move on to, can we move, does everyone understand absence and disappearance? Does that make sense? Yes, Devika? What did you say? You're muted. I can't.
I was repeatedly looking at it and looking at it. It says these two conditions are another pair which are identical in substance but differ merely in the letter. So I'm considering when it says differ merely in the letter, first one says absence condition. The other one says disappearing conditions, but it is the same. It is condition where mental state ceases, gives the opportunity for another mental state to start. But disappearing condition also says the same thing. And by its own disappearance, gives the opportunity to the next mental state to arise.
Personally,
It's similar.
Personally, Devika, I personally maintain still that it is two different perspectives of looking at the same thing, denoting two different moments of that process, right? But let's see how, and if our minds would change as we go on, right? Let us see, because I mean, Dhamma is not about being closed-minded, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So for me personally, I am personally at the moment looking at it as two perspectives of looking at the same thing. Let us see if we learn something more, which changes our minds.
Okay. I just
Can we
express
agree to do
what I
that?
felt. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I felt the same way. Can we agree to do that, everyone? Is everyone on the same page?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now let us move on to non-disappearance, right? Non-disappearance condition. Can someone kindly point out the page for non-disappearance? It is, of course, 21, presence.
That's also 306.
306,
I think it's 322.
322. Yes, it is. Oh, good. It's both there. These are two conditions, again, identical in meaning and differing only in the letter. In this relationship, a conditioning state helps the conditioned states to arise or persist in being during a time when it exists alongside the conditioned states, right? During the time, sorry,
Sorry, Bhante.
yeah,
I'm a bit confused. Which one are you reading now? Are you doing 23 or are you doing 22 or 21?
no,
21 is 322. This guide to 26 is the present condition, which is the Atti one, which is 21. And the non-disappearing condition, the 24. So is that what we are reading? 24, Bhante?
yeah. So it is together, isn't it?
Okay. So
Yes,
we are reading the Atti conditions
because
and
it's
Avigata.
the same thing again as personally two perspectives.
So we are looking at the, let's do,
Non-disappearance.
we are looking at the Atti and the Avigata Pache.
Yes.
Why I'm resorting to the Pali thing is, it's really confusing if you look at the English, because the English in Sayadaw's book, the word is different to the book that we are doing in, which is the Abhidhamma book. So because why I'm telling you that is because in this chart on whatever page that we have printed out and that we are following, into page 22, right? Absence is only nothing, right? That's what it's been told. But absence in the other book is different. It's actually disappearance, right? Which is bigger. In Pali, in both books, 23 is disappearance, no, it's vigata. So that's why there is consistency there. But in English, it's disappearance in this chart that we are doing here in the compendium.
Yes.
But in the other one, right, that is absence. So
Now, what I would personally say, yes, of course, there are differences. Now, for example, when we go, or if a person is studying far more deeply, Sayadaw, people like Sayadaw would explain it to the word where they sort of consider different translations. But the thing is, the translations are completely owing to the new generational Burmese who translated the book.
Yeah.
Right. So
better to stick to the Pali.
better to, I think in any way it's better to stick to the Pali.
Yeah. Okay, Bhante.
But
Okay.
but let us see, right?
Yeah.
We are doing atti and avigata, presence and non-disappearance. Okay.
Yeah.
These two are conditions. These are two conditions identically meaning differing only in the letter. In this relation, a conditioning state helps the conditioned state to arise or persist in being during a time when it exists alongside the conditioned state, right? In the fact that is presence, the fact of it being. Do you understand? In the fact of it being present, right? In the fact of it being present, it supports, it conditions. Do you understand? That's attipachaya. It is not necessary, however, for the conditioning state and the conditioned states to be connascent. All that is required is for the two to be temporary overlap. We already know this, right? And for the conditioning state to support in some way the conditioned states during the time they overlap, and they need to support one another, right? Thus, presence condition includes pre-nascence and post-nascence. Why? They overlap and support. As well as connascence, sahajata. While the text mentions only 5 types of presence condition, since these 5 in turn include additional subsidiary types, presence comprises a wide variety of other conditions. This will become clear in the next section, which deals with subsumption of all conditional relations under 4 master conditions. Right? Under 4 master conditions. Now, disappearance gonna tibbada? Did you mention anything about disappearance?
No.
දෙකම එකට තියෙනවා. First
Because disappearance is vigata. They haven't talked about that. They have only talked about avigata and atti.
Yeah. So this is non-disappearance, right? The fact that it is present is presence atti pachaya. The fact that it is present in being. Ari, do you get that? The fact that it does not disappear, right, is non-disappearance. Avigata pachaya. The fact that it does not disappear and it is present in supporting and overlaps is avigata pachaya. Again, 2 perspectives. The fact that it is present supports through attipachaya. The fact that it remains present without disappearing is avigata pachaya. Right? Which helps to support and for the overlapping of condition and conditioning state. Is that clear? Right? So it's referring to again the same thing, but it is covering, I believe that it is covering ground to say it conditions by the fact of it being present, it conditions by the fact of remaining present or not disappearing. Right? Not disappearing. If we can sort of also look at it in the way that Dhamsiri pointed out earlier, which was from the moment of the earlier, which was in Natti and Vigata, right? Absence and disappearance. Disappearance was from the ceasing of the Titi moment before the ceasing of the Banga moment, right? In presence, it is the fact of the Titi moment, right? And the non-disappearance, right? Or rather, Upada. From the Upada moment before the ceasing of the Titi moment is the presence condition, if we would look at it in that manner, before the ceasing of the before the ceasing of the Banga moment would be the non-disappearance. Right? Because non-disappearance, the fact that it's not disappearing. Yeah. But if we actually look at it again with much more, we will have to take from Titi up to before it passes and non-disappearance, isn't it, Dhamsari? Yeah, we will have to take it like that. But regardless, yeah. So, is that clear, everyone? It is looking at the same Atipachaya, but in two perspectives of it, I believe, in completely covering, how the conditioning happened, disappearance, presence condition. One, it needs to be present, overlapping between the conditioning and the conditioned state. Two, it needs to support. These two needs to be done through Atti and Avigata Pacha, presence and non-disappearance. Right? That is why we have connascence, pre-nascence, post-nascence, nutriment, and faculty conditions. Because in all of these conditions, what do we see? They overlap. They being present at the same time that the conditioned state arises. Do you understand, everyone? This does not happen everywhere. In proximity condition number 4, which we have just done for the sake of example, by the time that the succeeding 89 chittas and the 52 chaitasikas arise, the preceding 89 chittas and the 52 chaitasikas have passed away. Do you understand? Right? So, we are looking at a position, right, where again it overlaps the conditioned and the conditioning, and two, it supports. Is that understood? Any questions? I would be very happy to explain further or again if required. Yeah, Anuma?
Please, Bhante. Yeah, explain it again once more, please, Bhante.
From which one do you want me to explain?
The present one now, the 23 and 20. Yeah,
23 or 21 and 24?
21 and 24, Bhante.
Right.
Yeah, yes, 21 and 24. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, no problem. Now, 3 to 2. Here, let's read it again, everyone. These two conditions, identical in meaning and differing only in the letter. In this relationship, a conditioning state helps the conditioned states to arise or persist in being during a time when it exists alongside the conditioned states. So, in being during the time when it exists alongside the conditioned state. ඒ කියන්නේ the conditioning state helps the conditioned state to arise or persist in being during a time when it exists alongside the conditioned state. Do you understand? Right? Anoma, are you back with us?
Yes, Bhante, I got cut off. Now I'm back.
All right.
Thank
So
you,
here
Bhante.
what it says is, in this relationship, a conditioning state helps the conditioned state to arise or persist in being present during a time when it exists alongside the conditioned state. So here, to arise or persist in being, persist in being during a time it exists alongside the conditioned state. Right? So the conditioning state and the conditioned state exists alongside, helping it to arise or persist. Do you understand? It is not necessary. However, for a conditioning state and the conditioned state to be connascent, all that is required is for two to temporarily overlap, and for the conditioning state to support in some way the conditioned state during the time that they overlap. Now that is when we find ourselves in a position where these dhammas become connascent. Right? Become connascent, sahajata. Thus, presence condition includes pre-nascence, post-nascence, as well as connascence. While the text mentions only 5 types of presence condition, since these 5 in turn include additional subsidiary types, presence condition comprises a wide variety of other conditions. This will become clear in the next section, which deals with the subsumption of all conditional relations into 4 master conditions. Let's just look at the 4 master conditions. Now you see this whole big thing here. Right? Here what it deals with. Right now, I won't overwhelm you right now. But this is where we need to have, are you all with me? Like, forget your chart and just look at this chart, yeah? For this moment. Now, when it comes to the 24 relations, the 24 relations can be synthesized into these 4 main groups: object, decisive, karma, and presence. Right? And presence. Object pachaya relates to all that relates with the essence or operates with the essence of or under the essence of arammana pachaya. Decisive support. What is the Pali for decisive? Upanishaya. Decisive support, all that works under Upanishaya. Can Upanishaya, the essence of that Upanishaya. Kamma pachaya and attipachaya, presence. Right. Now when you look at attipachaya here, right, we have object predominance, arammana pachaya, arammana adipati pachaya. Sahajata adipati, connascence predominance, connascence support, base connascence support, base pre-nascence support, base object pre-nascence support, base pre-nascence, object pre-nascence, connascent kamma, dissociation is vipayuta pachaya. Hetu pachaya, root, connaissance, sahajata, mutuality, anyamanya, result, vipaka, nutriment, ahara, faculty, indriya, jhana, path, phala, magga, association is sampayutta, non-disappearance, avigata, and post-nascence. All of these come under or work with a certain essence of the fact of what? That it arises, the fact of it being, aiding the arising and persistence of the conditioned state. Do you understand? Is that clear? Dil, what are you looking through?
I'm writing in the chart in the book, the words that you're.
No. Forget it. Please, forget it. Right? We are going to come back. We are just touching. We are going to do revision. Forget it. Just listen to me. Right? Now, with all of these, right? Object, connaissance, these words, because there are so much, just forget these first 5 because it's subsects. Even if you look at root, connaissance, hetu, arambana, hetu, sahajata, anyamanya, vipaka, these ones, which makes more sort of clear sense to us, right? If you sort of think about it, right? It has to fulfill a key function, which is the fact that it has to support, or it has to be present in its state of presence. It supports the arising and the persistence of the conditioned state. Do you understand? Now, to make it clearer, let us look at karma, right? Asynchronous karma. What is asynchronous karma? I perform a certain karma today, right now, the result of which I experience in 5 years or later. Not now, but later, even tomorrow or even tonight, right? Later, not at this moment. Sahajata karma is different. I do it, and together with that, at that moment itself, I experience it. That's different, right? This karma is different. Now, sahajata karma, you see, it's here. Under presence. Right? Under presence. Asynchronous karma. Now, asynchronous karma is not in presence. Why? Because the moment that you do the karma and when you experience the karma are the same attributes that created the karma present. No. Do you understand? Does that make Atipachya clearer there? Right? In that sense, right? Now here we have in Atipachya, right? What can we take? No, let us stop. Okay, repetition, asevana. Yeah, no, let's stop there, right? Let's stop there for now. This we are going to come back to after we sort of go through the 24 pachayas, right? And we have a clearer idea, and sort of we also sort of recollect upon everything that we have done through the 24, right? And we are going to break it down into these 4. Is that clear? Right? So no stress. Yeah. So is non-disappearance then clear? Again, these are 2 conditions identical in meaning and differing only in the letter. In this relationship, a conditioning state helps the conditioned state to arise or persist in being. This in being is very important, everyone. Right? During a time when it exits along the conditioned states. It is not necessary, however, for the conditioning state and the conditioned state to be connascent, all that is required is for the two to temporarily overlap and for the conditioning state to support in some way the conditioned state during the time they overlap. Thus, presence condition includes pre-nascence and post-nascence as well as connascence. While the text mentions only 5 types of presence condition, these 5 in turn include additional subsidiary types which we have gone through, right? Let's go back to the chart. Right. Here, presence is non-disappearance. Presence is the fact that it is present. This non-disappearance is the fact that it remains present without disappearing. It remains present without disappearing. The fact that it is present and the fact that it remains present without disappearing is pivotal for the conditioning states to be supported. Hence we have presence, Attipacca and Abhigatapacca. Is that clear? Right? Is that clear?
Yes, Bhante.
Yeah?
Yeah, Bhante.
Any questions? Let it.
Bhante,
Yes.
could you give an easy example of that overlap?
Yes. Sahajata. Right? Let's go to Sahajata. So in Sahajata, right, connascence condition, right? This connascence condition is present in non-disappearance, right? In non-disappearance. And Atti as well, of course, right? It's the same thing. So let's pick one. Which one do you want? Shall we go with the easier one? The 4 great essentials, right? So an easy example with regards to connascence is, which we can take to Atti and non-disappearance. With relation to Atti and non-disappearance, I'm explaining now. Huh? So 4 great essentials which support each other and derived matter. The 4 great essentials which support each other and derived matter. If we take a derived matter, right? If we take a derived matter, let's take a derived matter. Let's take a derived matter. Let's take, what do you want to take? Any?
Can you, Bhante, can
Yeah.
you please enlarge that chart? Pen.
Yeah. Hold on. Any of the derived matter. So if we take any of the derived matters that we are able to see, right, with regards to this, with regards to, no. Four great essentials with any of the derived matters. When one derived matter arises, you name it whatever, right? Any of the derived matters. When the derived matter arises, the Mahabhutas have to also be present at that same time. Or else what happens? Without the support of the Mahabhutas, the derived matters will not persist nor arise. Isn't it?
Yes.
That is an example. Does that make sense? Now you see, according to Attipacca, now does that example make sense to everyone? Right? The derived matters, if you take any of the derived matters, right? The Mahabhutas, Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, has to be present. It has to arise together first of all with the derived matter, or it arises, right, supports the derived matters, right, and allows and to arise and persist as well. As long as the Mahabhutas remain in that fashion, the derived matter will remain in that same fashion. You see? Right? Now, Atti and Avigata. The fact that for the incumbent reason of the derived Rupa being present, because of the presence of the Mahabhutas is Attipachya, everyone. Do you understand? Connaissance, under connaissance, ekenne. Under connaissance, right? The fact that the Mahabhutas remain without disappearing is what allows the prolongation of the derived matter, which is non-disappearance condition. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Dil, presence, the fact that the Mahabhutas are present allows the derived matters to come into being and remain.
Yeah, that I am.
That it does not. Then in the same way, we are talking about presence, no? Right? Because of the fact that it's there. Right? Because of the fact that it did not. Now we are looking at, because of the fact that the Mahabhutas remained without disappearing within that time frame, 17 mind moments, 17 chittakanas, right? Because it remained without disappearing, right? Without, not that it can disappear as well, but the fact that it remains without disappearing, the Mahabhut, the derived matter too remains. Do you understand? So it's looking at the fact of presence, that the fact of it being there, and the fact that it did not leave. Just imagine we invite a person home for dinner or garden party or whatever event at home or wherever, right? And we can speak about this person in these two ways, right? I'm sure we can speak about that person in many ways, but we are only speaking about these two ways, right? One is the fact that the person remained. This person was present throughout the event. He was with the guest, did not linger out and was not on the phone or did not sort of, isolate himself anywhere. He was with the guest. The fact that he was present, right? Then in that same way, or referring to that presence, we can say, oh, we are very glad he was present throughout the event. We can also say, we are very glad that he did not leave. Same talking about in both, different by word, similar in essence. We are talking about that person's presence. Does that make sense? Yeah? I see a bit of happy faces. I feel like that example made sense. Right? Yeah. So it's referring to now this person, but we are talking about in two ways, in two senses, the fact that the person did not leave and the fact that he was present, right? Referring in essence the same thing, but integrally it is a bit different also, right? That is owing to our wisdom of understanding the scope of that difference between Atti and Avigata. Do you understand? Is that clear? Yeah? Any questions? No? Right. So, now we have to move on. Now we've completed. Hurrah to all of us. right? With great strife, with great amount of battles and tug of wars, we have completed the 24 patches, the most challenging of all the chapters, right? Now, what we require, what we need to do, truly, although I mean this part or this approach of the patchers, how difficult it is truly comes to the two parts, which is essentially your understanding of the three parts of what is a conditioned state, no, conditioning state, conditioned state, and what is pacha sakti, conditioning force. Isarama, you must understand that. What is this mechanism? What is a conditioning state, conditioned state, and what is the pacha sati? That is the preliminary understanding required to gain entry into the pachas. The second, none of this. Now, this is the first part, is the only part which is new. The second part is refreshing on, and as we do it, we are and we know chitta, chetasika, rupa, viti. Right? These four chapters, chitta, chetasika, rupa, and viti. Viti muttaka as well, actually. Right? Viti muttaka, but Viti muttaka as well. So those 5 chapters, the refreshing, how well you know these 5 chapters would correlate to how well you are able to grasp the essence of what the Patthana is. Yeah. So during this time, I would then tell you to focus on, both those previous chapters that we did, and to make it an opportunity based now. You don't have to go back to chapter 1 and then go through the whole book again. But what I would sort of suggest you doing is to sort of take one pacha at a time and go back to those sections relevant to those pachas, refresh and come back, refresh and come back. Right? Refresh and come back. And as we go, it will sort of automatically be repolished there. Right? Now, let us go to the chart. Right. Now, how many of you were able to read through the definitions of the 21 pachas? The meanings. Were you able to revise? Read through? Yeah? Good. Right? Some of you have, some of you haven't. Right? But you need to. Right? If because so for some of you, this is the first time that you're doing the book. Right? For some others, this is the second time that you're doing the book. So it's, let's try to do it properly. Like, don't let go, because you've held on for almost 2 years now, right? You've held on, right? Don't let go at the last part just because it's a little bit foreign, right? Don't let go. And it is not as difficult. It is not as difficult. Now, as we are doing the revision, right? You will realize that it is not so difficult again if you understand those, essentially the first part. But this learning that you have, the memory that you have of chapters 1 to 3 and up to Chittaviti really helps. And that is what would essentially then give you the ability to sort of realize what this is, right? So, root pacha, right? Root pacha. What is root pacha? What is root pacha? Hetu pacha. Hetu pacha relates to, let's read the book. Yeah. Is a condition where a conditioning state functions like a root by imparting firmness and fixity to the conditioned state. That is what a root brings. Right? The conditioning state in this relation are the 6 mental factors known as roots. The 3 unwholesome greed, hatred, delusion, and the 3 beautiful non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, which may be either wholesome or indeterminate. The conditioned states are the mental states associated with each root and the connascent material phenomenon. The connascent material phenomena are those born of karma at the moment of rebirth linking and those born of consciousness during the course of existence. Just as the roots of the tree are the basis for a tree's existence, growth, and stability, so these roots give rise to the conditioned state and make them firm and steady. Right? Your homework, go back and read Sayadaw's book. Okay? Now, root, the condition, how many roots are there? 6. 6 roots. Greed, hatred, delusion, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, right? Because of greed, hatred, delusion, because of the 6th root, what arises? All the rooted consciousnesses, right? All the rooted consciousnesses arise because of the roots. Because of the roots, right? Because of the roots. 71 rooted chittas, 52 chetasikas, excluding delusion connascent with 2 delusion rooted chittas, matter born of rooted chittas. Matter born of rooted chittas, karma born matter at rooted rebirth. Okay. Why they have said rooted rebirth there is because we are talking about roots, right? So don't feel that it is something that, any rebirth that happens, it happens because of a root, right? So it's using the word rooted there just to sort of bring it out a bit. Yeah. So 71 chittas. Why? How did we get the 71 chittas? The 89 chittas minus what, Noilin?
Yeah, rootless.
The rootless. How many rootless?
18.
18, correct. So 89 chittas minus 18, 71 rooted chittas. And there are 52 chetasikas, excluding delusion connascent with 2 delusion rooted chittas. Why? Delusion connascent with 2 delusion rooted chittas. We had 2 delusion rooted chittas, right? What are they?
The one with doubt and the other one with restlessness.
Yes, Uddacha and Vichikicha, isn't it? Uddacha and Vichikicha. Why excluding delusion connascent with the 2 delusion rooted chittas?
Because it's got only one root.
Because it has only one root. Right? Because it has only one root. Right? Why is it that that's a problem? Why is it that because it has one root we are taking it out?
Because it can't be the conditioning and the conditioned at the same time.
Correct. Exactly. Because when we say moha is already there. Here you see. If we take moha here, conditioning state and the conditioned state, because it only has one root. Is that clear, everyone?
Yeah.
Right? So that is why we exclude moha there. Right? That is why we exclude moha there. Matter chittas, matter born of rooted chittas. What are the matters born of rooted chittas? Right? Chittaja rupas, right? Matter born of rooted chittas, karma born matter at rebirth. So we are taking two. Right? Because of roots, what arises? Because of roots, what arises? 71 chittas, 52 chetasikas, excluding two delusion in delusion rooted chittas, matter born of mind, right? Rooted mind, rooted consciousness, sorry, and matter born of rooted rebirth, right? These are the positions where roots come to play, right? Roots effect, right? What are the matters born of or chitta the rupas and karma born rupas at rebirth? Let's take karma born matter at rebirth first.
At the Utpada, you get what Hadevattu, and then you get Kaya and Bhava with Patsandi.
Kaya
And Bhava.
and Bhava. And Bhava rupas. Kaya,
And-
Bhava, Hadevattu.
Yeah.
Right? Kaya, Bhava, Hadevattu. Right? What about Chittada? Maybe for the others, what I will do is I'll take out the chart. Right? So, karma born at rebirth, everyone. Karma born at rebirth, what arises? Right? What arises? Another chart. We have charts for everything, which is wonderful. So, now, right, this one. Here, Kammaja Rupas at this moment, right? Kammaja Rupas are right at this moment, at the moment of rebirth. This is what we are going to, this is what we are taking. During this Kammaja Rupa, right? During this Kammaja Rupa, there are Hadevastu, Bhavalakkana, and Bhavalakkana, Hadevastu, and
Kaya. Kaya.
and Kaya, right? Now, what is that here? What is that here? What can we take? Hadevastu, Kaya, and Bhavalakkana. Anyone?
What's the question, Bhante?
In this section, in the 9 karma born, what can we then put it down to?
Is it Patisandhi Chitta, Bhante?
No. So then here what we are looking at is the body, right? Masculine body Descartes, masculinity or femininity according to the sex, right? And then the base Descartes. Right, everyone? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Can you make it a little bit bigger, Bhante, please, the chart?
Okay.
Tiny bit. Yeah, that should out. Yeah, that's fine.
So here, now what Mala said was, according to the book, during the time of rebirth, everyone, we have the Hadevastu, which is Hadevastu, which comes through the base decad here. Do you understand? Right? This one, base decad. And then according to the, what is the sex? In accordance with what the sex is, it's either masculine or feminine. So then we have the masculine or the feminine decad. O, right? O. And then there is the body decad. Do you understand? It is those four that can arise, or that arise, I'm sorry, not can, that arises at rebirth. Is that clear for everyone? Right? And then let us look a little bit more deeper. In all of those, what we have is the base decad, masculine, feminine, and body decad. We have Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo. We have Vanna, Gandha, Rasa. Right? Vanna, Gandha, Rasa. That is all the same. Right? We have Hadevastu as well as Oja in all four as well. The difference remains in masculine, we have masculine energy, masculine rupa. In feminine, we have feminine rupa. And in the base decad, we have the heart base. Is that clear, everyone? All have Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, all have Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, and Jiviti Indriya. And Jivitindra. Why Jivitindra? Kamma. Right? We talked about that. Kamma. Does that make sense? Right? Otokota, then if we just say, right, karma born during the moment of rebirth, there are three: Kaya, right? Kaya, the base decad, the femininity decad, masculinity decad, and the body decad. Right? Body decad. In the body decad, we have Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Jivitindriya. Right? Jivitindriya. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? What did I miss? Did I miss anything? I missed
Masculinity and
body sensitivity.
femininity.
Kaya Prasada. Right? Kaya Prasada, because it's body. Right? In the base decad, we have Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, and Hadevastu.
Hadevastu.
Right? Hadevastu.
And then we have life, faculty, and nutriment too.
Yeah.
And we have life, faculty, and nutriment too, isn't it? Under base.
So that is Jivitindriya and Oja. Oja I forgot to mention. Right? Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Hadevastu, Jivitindriya. And Jivitindriya. So 10 there, right? All must have 10. In the masculine, we have Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, masculine, so Purisasa Bhava, right? And Jivitindriya, 10. In Ittibhava, we have Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Ittibhava, and Jivitindriya, 10. Okay, everyone? So during rebirth, if we ask again, we have the body, we have the heart, we have Itti or Purisa. Got it? Right? So those body and heart arises, and one of the Itti or the Purisa arises. Yeah? So altogether there would be 3, but the potential is 4. Do you understand? හතරකින් එන්න පුළුවන්, ඒත් ඇත්තටම එන්නේ 3යි. Right? Because we choose between, or according to karma, it becomes not only karma, jhana as well, regardless. Itti and Purisabhava. Okay. Now, consciousness. Consciousness energy during the time of, right, come matter born of rooted chittas. Matter born of rooted chittas, right? So we have to take chittas, no? Right? Rooted chittas. When it comes to, right? When it comes to, then maybe we can approach it in this manner. What are the matters that are born of chittas without root? What are the matters born of chittas without root? What are the matters born of chittas without root? What do you think?
Aropa?
Huh?
Aropa?
Correct. No rupas. මොකෝ මේ කට්ටිය ඔක්කොම බය වෙලා. No rupas.
That was a wild guess, Bhante.
Yeah, I mean, good wild guess, because if it's no root, it's weak, it barely does anything, it cannot produce rupas. So, what are we then looking at? We are looking at all of these. The 6 consciousness born during life. During life, all 6 can arise. Right? All 6 can arise. Is that clear? Right? Now, going back. Right? Going back. All 6 can arise. So maybe, okay, wait. All 6 can arise. So we have the pure octad, which has Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja. That's it. 9, 8, right? Oja. Bodily intimation, nonad. So that should have bodily intimation, nonad, no? So then 8 plus 1. What is 8 plus 1? What is the 1? Bodily intimation. So it's 9 here, right? You see 8 plus 1 here. Bodily intimation. Number 20. Do you have the chart with you, everyone? Right? So number 20 is added on to the pure octad. Why? Because that is how consciousness produces bodily movement. Right? For what? Intimation. Right? Intimation. Communication. Is that clear? Yeah. Then we have
Bodily and mental communication. When you say communication?
No. This is bodily communication, right? We are talking about rupas, no?
Okay. Yeah.
So what are the rupas that are created to produce bodily movement for communication? Right? Remember, every consciousness born rupa for communication is for communication. If it is temperature born, it is not for communication. Right? We did this revision class. Right? Now, is that clear, everyone? Am I going too fast?
No, Bhante.
Okay. Is that clear? Dil, how are you?
Okay, Bhante.
Okay, good. Then we have vocal intimation, everyone. Can you see my cursor here? Vocal intimation. So vocal intimation would be the pure octad, Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, plus Vachi Vinyati, number 21, plus number 21. So that would also be Vachi Vinyati. Here there is sound as well. Because you have to produce sound to communicate. Vachi. Right? So we have sound as well. Number 11. So one Patavi Apo Tejo Vayo, one Saddha, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, and Vachi Vinyati. Okay? I'll give you a moment. Vocal intimation decard. We have Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Vanna, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, and Vachi Vinyati. All together 10. Right? All together 10. Now, mutability undecard. Right? Mutability undecard. What is mutability undecard? Mutability undecard is where the consciousness affects the lightness, softness, adaptability of the body. Lahuta, muduta, kammanyata. Consciousness. Right? The consciousness. Now I don't want to communicate. This is not for communication. Right? This is because of my mind at this state. Right? Now, for example, when I am teaching all of you, right, I have my facial expressions, which is plentiful, right? I have my bodily sort of expressions and movements, which is completely dramatic and overdone, right? now, consciousness, right? Consciousness affects the flexibility, the malleability, the physicality, isn't it? Right? There you find Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Lahuta, Muduta, Kammanyata. I don't have enough fingers in my hands to count. Right? But it is 11. Right? Got it? Lahuta, Muduta, Kammanyata. Now consciousness to communicate, right? The body is prepping and preparing for this sort of communication, right? So if I am to communicate through the body, the lauta, muruta, kammanyata has to be assisted by kaya vinyati in order for the lahuta, muduta, kammanyata to be done in a manner supportive of bodily movement, isn't it? So then there would be 12 there. How? Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Kaya Vinyati, Lahuta, Muduta, Kammanyata. Kaya Vinyati, Lahuta, Muduta, Kammanyata. Why? Because it is bodily intimation, mutability, bodicard. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Right? Because there we would have to have now bodily kaya vinyati as well as the ability, as well as lahuta, muduta, kammanyata, making the muscles and the skin and everything soft, enabling me to communicate, isn't it? Right? Enabling me to communicate. Yeah? Okay. Then we have the vocal intimation mutability tridecard. There we have now metantennona shrub. We have to have.
We need the sound.
We need the sound, exactly. With sound, vachi vinyati, lauta, muduta, kammanyata. So Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, vachi vinyati lahuta muduta kamanyata. 13.
13.
Does that make sense, everyone?
Yeah.
Bhante, can you count that, Bhante? The first 4, the second 4. Can you go on from there to get the 13, Bhante? Can you just repeat that,
So
please?
lahuta, earth, water, fire,
Yeah,
air.
yeah, yeah,
Earth,
yeah,
fire, air.
yeah.
ba- 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 ba-
Vana, Gandha, Shabda,
Vanna,
Vibhuti.
Gandha, Vanna, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Vachi Vinyati, Lahuta, Muduta, Kamanyata. 13.
4 and 4, 8. Then 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm missing one. Vana, Gandha, Shabda.
Patavi, Apo.
Right. Okay. 4 plus 5 plus 1 plus 3.
13, yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Vanna, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Oja, Vachi
Vachi.
Vinyati,
Yeah,
Lahuta,
and
Muduta, Kamanyata. 13.
the mutable. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
All right.
Bhante, a question.
Okay.
Can you give me an example for mutability undecade? Is it during meditation or something that you experience?
Mutability,
Undecade, yeah.
mutability undikad. Now we would have here Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Lahuta, Muduta, Kamanyata.
Kamanta, yeah.
Here, Damsiri, I believe in mutability undikad, right? This is not for communication. However, this is when we are, because of it can happen during meditation. It can happen because of the state of consciousness as well. Now let us say, Damsiri, you say something very annoying, right? And then sort of I am in red with anger. What would happen? My body would harden. Right? Because anger would mean Patavi and Tejo. Patavi, Tejo would mean my body, my muscles, my system would harden. It would heat up. Right? Now you see the state of consciousness has to change, right? Consciousness born. You said something, I am mad at you, clearly. Now my body shifts in balance. That shifting of balance has to happen through Lahuta, Muduta, Kamanyata. Right? Then you say something which is nice. Let's say you say sorry, for example. Right? Now the balance shifts again. Lahuta, Muduta, Kamanyata. I am not trying to communicate. This is the maintenance of my body.
Body, okay.
Right? My maintenance of body.
Yeah.
When the Patavi, if this is my Ayonsu Mansikara throughout the day, where people tell me stuff, and if it brushes off on me in a bad manner, my Patavi and Tejo increases throughout. We experience problems with the gut, problems with our blood pressure, with all the other systems. Now you see, connect all those problems to Patavi and Tejo.
Yeah.
Right? Even our bowel movements, right? Becoming irregular, and all of these problems, Patavi and Tejo, the imbalances, right? All of that, mutability undikad.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sense? Okay. Everyone else, now is it clear? Now the only thing that we have to discuss is pure octad. Now where would the pure octad arise? The pure octad has 8, Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, and Oja. Right? Where would a pure octad arise?
Temperature?
No. This is consciousness born, no?
Oh, consciousness.
Yes, of course. There's a pure octad in temperature as well. So what would this pure octad be? What do you think?
Is it very first consciousness born Rupa? That means you get this in the Bhavanga, first Bhavanga. During the first Bhavanga, you get conscious. First Bhavanga, yes.
Yes, first bhavanga. First
Yeah.
bhavanga. And
You get very raw consciousness born Rupa.
Yes, yes. But yes, that would be so. We have, because it is not going to be any one of the others. It's going to be the pure octad.
Yeah.
But only at rebirth, Damsare, you think?
No, during
Life as well.
yeah, during life as well, you know, because
During-
especially when you are meditating, no, not necessarily. You can have during bhavanga as well, normal bhavanga, when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with I would say within bhavanga and even during life, right? Even during life, when any of, because here bodily intimation, vocal intimation, the only sort of lapses. Okay, so at any position which is not covered by mutable by communication, you're not trying to communicate bodily or
Yeah.
vocally, right? That's
Okay.
one. And the second one is when the consciousness is effectively not affecting the balance of the physical body, right? Meaning the lahuta mruta kamanyata, right? The lightness, softness, and adaptability. ඒ අවස්ථා දෙක ඇර අනිකුත් අවස්ථාවල් වල මේ කලාපේ හටගන්න පුළුවන්. This pure octad can arise. This pure octad arise because this pure octad basically has Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, and Oja. So here, this Oja will naturally multiply itself as well. Remember? This oja, this nutrition would multiply itself as well. So there can be situations of mind where, you know, the mind creates these sort of pure octads, you know, just by the situation of the mind, right? Just by the situation of the mind, right? Now, at those times, the pure octads would arise, but specifically a very raw form that arises at rebirth as well, at the process, at that moment of the first bhavanga, at rebirth as well. Okay, everybody? Is that clear?
Yeah.
If we get to know more about where the pure octad arises, we'll discuss it again when we are coming, because we are going to be coming here again, right? Is that clear? Have we done good?
Yes.
Right, we have done good, I think, because now we understand clearly what are the karma bonds that arise at rebirth and what arises and what are the consciousness bonds, right? We've counted them, we've found it easier. Now, if we would say, okay, what is bodily intimation? Nonad, we can, without looking at the form, we can say Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Vanna, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, and Kaya Vinyati. So 9, right? So there it is 9, right? If we are to say what is vocal intimation, mutability, tridecard, it would be then Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, Vanna, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Oja, Vachi Vinyati, Lahuta, Muduta, Kamanyata, right? 13, right? So now we can also count like that as well, right? So take a look at it. Please do not forget your books, right? Just cut down on the news first and put that onto, news first. So let's cut down on the news first and bring that news first time into dodecards and tridecards, yeah? All right. Enough for today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you, Bhante.
And I will see
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good night.
Everyone
Thank you,
have a
Bhante.
nice
Good night, Bhante. Everyone,